Hello and welcome back. These days, especially over the last 2 or 3 decades, music fans have been able to base their own music taste on the different artists chronologically. That means you can play any artist, any song nowadays, and follow his output through the years. When people my age were teenagers, there was no internet, of course, no computers, so you lack out into the albums, right? Maybe some schoolmate taught you about an album. You just push your luck and bought one at random in a physical store, or you follow the seller's advice. And the thing is that you build up your music taste based on that. So, as I said, we didn't buy albums chronologically. We just might buy the album that just come out that very day, and then going back and forth to get the others. Uh, well, when I was 12, my father had a wonderful table. I told you about it on other videos, but he liked soundtracks and classical music. My mother, on the other hand, had a cassette tape, and she played easy listening. So my house was very musical, but I could feel that that music had nothing to do with me, right? I had to find my own music, my own space, and it's something that you need when you're a teenager, right? To build that generation gap and tell your parents, hey, this is my music. So this video is really a story of how I came across certain albums in my life that absolutely changed my taste, and the albums, I built my personal discography on. This is my story. Hope you like it, and let's get into it. When I was 12, a schoolmate, well, I borrowed a cassette tape from schoolmate. He told me to play that album, that it had nothing to do with what our parents were listening to, and it was something that was called rock and roll. The guy was obviously Elvis Presley. This is the album. I knew Elvis from the movies on television because they used to play them on Sunday afternoons or Saturday evenings, and I never felt much love for the guy because I really didn't like the movies. To me, they were cheesy and boring, and the plot kept repeating. But when I played the cassette tape of this album, things changed. Right, I listened to real rock and roll, Blue Suede Shoes, Tutti Frutti, Trying to Get to You, Shake, Rattle and Roll, My Baby Left Me, and I became an instant fan. Now I had in my hands something that my parents didn't relate to, and a music I could relate to myself and become my own discography. So I don't play these albums much, right? But I cherish them, and they've got a special place on my shelves. And sometimes, I just browse them through, or occasionally play them because of memories, because of nostalgia, and because I'm thankful to them for building my own personal taste and for growing into new music that's been the soundtrack of my life. So thank you, Elvis, for that. This is the music on vinyl reissue from 2000. It's mono. It sounds okay, but of course I can't afford to buy an original from the 1950s in good condition. But this one does it. Whenever I feel nostalgic, I play old Elvis and put a smile on my face. Uh, A year after that, there was another schoolmate who had a bunch of friends that play music. They played different instruments, violin, flute, guitar, bass, and they told me about the Beatles. Not that I didn't know the Beatles, but I just knew the mainstream music, right? Hey Jude, Let It Be, Yesterday, and that's it, right? And I borrowed again a cassette tape which had it was a compilation, right? The 1967-1970 compilation with tracks that had absolutely nothing to do with what I was used to, right? With the music that was, coming out on the radio, and tracks here made me respect them really, really deeply, right? The Beatles is my favorite band. It'll always be. What they achieved to me, I don't think any other band will ever do it, right? So from this cassette tape, I started buying the albums, mainly from 1967 to 1970, because I didn't like the early Beatles that much. I think this was a more creative music, and opening boundaries and paving the way to the new bands that came in the late 60s and early 70s. One day I remember I was it was physical education at school, and I was sitting outside, and there was this guy that I didn't talk much to. He kept very much to himself. He was not very friendly, but he liked to boast about his albums. Right? His father was he came from a well-to-do family. His father was a gynecologist, and he had lots of records. And I saw him reading a newspaper. And he said that, he looked down on me and said, "Oh, you know nothing about music. This is not a newspaper. This is a record from a band called Jethro Tull, and the album is called Thick as a Brick. Here is the newspaper." This was so shocking when I was 15 or 16, right? It was great reading through the stories here, trying to make out the story written by a fictional Gerald Bostock that turned out to be Ian Anderson himself. And I absolutely knackered my copy, right? This is a Porky second pressing. I'll show you the label. And luckily, those stampers were used till 1975, so it's not difficult to find a Porky pressing. It was also used in Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and some other countries, if memory serves. You can easily get a Porky. The American reprise sounds very good. No complaints there, but to me it's a bit smoother. Right? It's more mellow, and this one has, let's say, more bollocks, for lack of a better word. And it sounds more like a rock album to me, whereas the American sounds more like a progressive rock album, if you get what I mean. So anyway, after this, of course, I bought all the other albums from the 70s, and Jethro Tull became one of my favorite bands, and similar bands that played progressive rock. I must have been about 15 when I went with my mother for a day trip to a nearby town about an hour away, and I was there to take a test to sit for an exam. My father had to work, so my mom was without a car, so we got on the coach, and it took us about an hour to get there. I sat for the exam, and my mother went to do some shopping. To my surprise, when I came out of the school, she bought me a record. And not only a record, it was a double album. Now, if those of you who remember, a double album was a big, big thing, right? Records were expensive to teenagers, very expensive. It used to take most of your allowance money if you were on that, and let alone a double album, right? They were really, really dear. So I was really happy when my mother bought me this record. The first thing that struck me was the artwork. Right, there is no title, no band, nothing on the back either, no song titles, nothing at all. The record was sealed, so I didn't open till I got home about a couple of hours later. And when I opened the record, I was even more astonished. The album had, of course, the track list and covers from their output, right from the 1969 to 1974 output. The band is, of course, King Crimson. I didn't know this was a compilation. I absolutely love this album. I trashed it. This is a UK first pressing. And on top of that, there was this booklet here with all their gigs and the story of the band with pictures. This was a teenager's dream. I spent hours and hours reading through this and getting to know the band and listening to the album. As I said, the best copy I've ever had is the UK first pressing that was mastered by Harry Moss, the Beatles engineer, and no others I've heard can compare to this one. I used to have an American EG, but I found it thin, it lacked bass and dynamics. This is the one you should go to. And of course, by the original albums on Island. Right? Island was really big at the time, and they really knew how to record albums. And I love this record so much that I even bought a Japanese CD copy of the album. Right? It's a double CD that has the booklet, and it's a wonderful. Let me show you. This is a bit tricky. Has a wonderful reproduction of the booklet, the story of the band as well, and with the different changes. Oh, look at this! This is amazing, and also the covers of their output. And as it is a double album, we got the lyrics on a separate booklet here in Japanese and in English, of course. Right? I don't know how much these CD goes for nowadays. I don't really know. This has been on my shelves for a long, long time. Sound doesn't compare to the vinyl, but I love to have this copy. Going back to school, there was this new guy that came mid-term because his father was working in a bank, and he was moved from a different city. He was a very quiet guy, but very much into his music. And he told me about a band called Genesis that I never heard of. And he said that was progressive rock, and it was music at a whole different level, right? So, as we used to do these days, I borrowed a tape of this album, A Trick of the Tail. That is still, that's probably my favorite Genesis album, together with Nursery Crime. I was absolutely amazed, astonished when I listened to this. This music was ethereal. The sounds, the stories transported you into a whole different world, and this kind of symphonic music, this kind of progressive music, became my favorite. From this one, of course, I bought the rest of the albums over the years. Let me recommend you once more this copy, the 75th anniversary of Atlantic Records, because this one sounds superb. The German copy is great, but this one is out of this world. Now, a bit later, must have been, I don't know, 17 or 18. Uh, we used to go to fairs on Sundays, right? My family and I loved, walking around the different stalls and, have a look at what they had there, which was usually, handbags and shoes and wrist laces, earrings, and that kind of stuff. And there was this guy, there's a long-haired guy in his 20s, was sitting in the backdrop of the place, right, playing music on a cassette tape. So I forgot about the fair and started listening to his music, and I loved it. I spent about half an hour listening to his music, and of course I asked him, right. He raised his eyes and looked at me in astonishment and saying, "Man, this is Steely Dan, right? The Royal Scam, right? This album, right?" Forgive me, I didn't know Steely Dan until that moment, and they were not that popular over here in Europe and in the UK. Believe me, certainly not as big as they are in the US. My birthday was 2 weeks away, so I saved some money and bought this copy. This is still today my favorite Steely Dan's album. This is an American first pressing, and to me, nothing compares. I don't know about the UHQR. I haven't bought it. I don't think I will because I'm perfectly happy. I'm perfectly happy with this. After this one, of course, came Asia, Gaucho, Katie Light, and the others. And today, Steely Dan is one of my favorite bands. I knew about the next one because of a jukebox that was in a place that we used to go to. It was for minors, for under 18s. They didn't sell alcohol, so we just went there to have soft drinks and play music in the jukebox. And there was this guy that played Ramblin' Man. Obviously from the album Brothers and Sisters, the Allman Brothers Band. I didn't know the Allman Brothers. I loved Ramblin' Man and the whole album, right? Jessica, Southbound, etc. I became a fan of the Allman Brothers and of Southern American rock music. Then I learned about Duane Allman, who's not on this album, and went to find the rest. I learned about Lynyrd Skynyrd, and these opened a whole new world of music to me. Surprising as it may seem, uh, I didn't. But if memory serves, it took me a few years to get to know the Who. To me, the Who were a band that simply, they just smashed up their guitars at the end of the concert, and Elton John had a version of Pinball Wizard, and that was it. I never took them very seriously until a friend of mine said, well, he encouraged me to listen to them and say, you don't know what you're missing out on, mate. They are absolutely great. He told me to start with this one. Who's next? Uh, 20 seconds into the album, and I was in for a treat, and I was absolutely shocked. The Who became one of my favorite bands, and they will ever be. Right? This is Bilbo. Sounds very very good. The US Decca as well, but I've never heard a copy of US Decca. You American friends can let me know. I've seen the Who live twice. Uh, Without, of course, Keith Moon. But from then on, it was hit after hit, right? It was strike after strike. Quadrophenia, Tommy, etc., etc. The Who are part of the story of my life. Now, there was a different bunch of guys at school who didn't like rock and pop and were more into jazz or into jazz fusion. It was not part of what I liked at the time, but when someone is passionate about something, he sort of insists and asks you to listen to this record, to that record, and try to say open up your scope. I did when I bought this album, Chicory Return to Forever, that drove me into fusion and jazz fusion music, the likes of John McLaughlin and others. And I bought some of those albums. They're excellent, fantastic music. I love this one because it was the first I bought, and there's fantastic music in here. Right? I don't think it's very expensive. The thing here, of course, is finding a clean copy. And it might open new doors and get you into different kinds of music, right? Not just rock and roll or jazz, right? As jazz is concerned, well, I'm not much of a jazz guy, but I had these. As you know, I used to be a teacher, and I had this workmate who was an absolute jazz fan. He had thousands of records in his house. The guy loved jazz, right? And he remained faithful to vinyl. He never even bothered to buy CDs, right? So one evening, it was summertime, he played me this album, Jerry Mulligan, Night Lights. This is not the original cover. The original cover has some skyscrapers with the blue background, right? The American copy. This is the Dutch pressing. It sounds very, very good. It's on Mercury, and oh my God, this sounds phenomenal. It's smooth jazz, fantastic to listen to late at night with a drink. You know what I mean. I've got 3 copies of the album, and I've loved Jerry Mulligan ever since. And to wrap it up for today, because this video is getting long, right? This is how I met Miles Davis. This film was on television one Saturday night, Ascenseur pour l'échafaud. And the music is by Miles Davis. The soundtrack is by Miles Davis. It's ever so good. Oh, I love the film is okay. It's it is very tense. It's noir cinema, but the soundtrack was fantastic. Right? I bought this album. I learned to know who Miles Davis was. Bought Kind of Blue, and you know the rest of the story. Right, so that's all for today. Now, let me know in the comments what albums changed your life or were really, really important in your growth, right, as a music lover or as an audiophile. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Take care. See you soon.